Hi, everybody. Jack O'Malley with you here on a Monday. No, today's Wednesday. I don't know. Days are all screwed up. Had a flat tire last night. It was a mess. So the brain is not working. Had that taken care of today. So, amidst all of the COVID and state issues, life still goes on, and tires still get flat. Still have to get them fixed and all that good stuff. So bear with me here. I am taking a look at some things. I see where the governor today said that there's going to be $65 million from Federal CARES Act money going to disadvantaged schools to help them with all the things and health-related issues. That's fantastic. Love it. Also, there was a question about school districts. What if there's an outbreak? Who's going to handle that? Well, as I understand it, and I believe this is what the governor's spokesperson said, well, right now that would be up to the local school district and the local health officials. And as one superintendent, because I said, well, what happens? Okay, you're back to school and you're rolling along. Then you have an issue. And he said, well, our plan would be to close that school, clean it, make sure that everybody is okay, and then get back at it as soon as we can. And I think that's the way we need to move forward. So, again, every school district's different. The makeup of the kids, the makeup of the age of the staffs, and all that stuff. So, again, I think the local approach is good. Now, the governor has not signed the measure we did pass through to her on Monday. I'm not hearing that she's not going to sign it, so she's just whatever. Hopefully she gets to it here. PDQ. All right, something else I wanted to chat about is an editorial in the Detroit News that I thought was interesting because, again, there are so many people who feel that the governor has done just a fantastic job. I want to, again, state the fact that I was with the governor early on. I think we all were. We didn't know. But we've learned a lot since way back when, right? Back in March. We've come a long way. So I want to run through some of the points of this editorial in the Detroit News and then touch on a couple other things, and I'll give you my 2 cents. The Detroit News editorial said in a report last week, a key statistic that brought on the tightening of the restrictions here in the North was wrong. Dr. Khaldun said a spike in positive tests from 2.2% to 3.7% had occurred. The governor then brought back the restrictions for bars, restaurants, and social gatherings, which has shut down many of our businesses here in the North. Wedding venues, done. Many bars are closing. Even restaurants have to trim. They can still do a little outside seating, but in another month, the weather's going to start stinking, and that's not going to work. So that's what happened. Well, it turns out that the rise that they thought was 3.7% was actually closer to 3, which everybody considers okay in a number of rise. Now, here's the kicker, and this is an important part of this. This is an editorial from the Detroit News. The lab doing the test results had mixed results from the state of Idaho and those of Michigan. A simple mistake, but one that has caused massive problems with the state and my region of the state. That information is now out there, but the governor hasn't changed her rules. Surges. So we have not seen the surges, continuing with the editorial, we've not seen surges in positive tests. Deaths have not risen at the same pace. Most days they're in the low single digits, the middle single digits. Treatment now is more effective. Younger people are getting the illness, have less chance of severe illness or death, and hospitals have capacity. Another interesting fact, a group called COVID Act Now is a national nonprofit, I guess, that tracks states. They say Michigan's daily positive rate is 2.5%. The University of Michigan says it's 3.2%. We need national rules on what constitutes this or what constitutes that or how you rate things, because until we do that, we have apples to oranges. So when we say this is happening here or that's happening there, how do we know it's even anything close? But we don't. So that's a federal thing. We need to have some federal standards across the board. This is how you count things. This is how you track things, because it's all over the place. But here we are. We've seen, according to the editorial, that the numbers they used to restrict Region 6 and 8 aren't accurate, or at least they are very questionable. But yet the governor hasn't done anything to reverse that. But it may already be too late, because several of the businesses I've talked to, I don't want to overestimate, but several of the businesses I've talked to are closed. They're done. We can't do it. So, because cancellations, they can only move forward. So here's another point to this that I think is important for people who are rock solid behind our governor. We all want people safe. I always have to preface by saying this, but we all want people safe. We don't want anybody to die. But yet we also don't want people suffering from anxiety and mental illness and abuse and isolation and all of that goes on with that. So I'm going to throw a novel idea out at people, especially those who are thinking the governor is just hitting home runs. And that is, we are no longer in a state of emergency, ladies and gentlemen. Back in March, we didn't know what the heck was coming at us. That's a state of emergency. But an emergency is a sudden, urgent, usually unexpected incident that requires immediate response. We are no longer responding to COVID-19. We're managing COVID-19. And that is a huge difference. Now, I hope that we win in the Supreme Court with that 1945 emergency management law. And if that doesn't work, I hope we win in the unlocked Michigan, get enough petitions, and we can get it off the law books that way. But even if it's still there right as we sit, ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer in a state of emergency. We are managing an emergency. And that's where I think our governor is so very misguided. And I could speculate here as to why I think she does the things she does. It will do no good. The point is that we are no longer in a state of emergency and really haven't been for quite some time. But as of right this moment, we're not in a state of emergency. Hospitalization, we have lots of PPE. We've got thousands of ventilators ready to go, sitting on a shelf if we needed them. But we've also learned that ventilators aren't the thing that they thought they were. There are approximately 700 ICU beds empty, ready to go. And we have 6,500 inpatient beds. Our medical personnel have learned what's working and what doesn't work. There is some discussion that maybe even the virus has mutated, like many do, and so it's not as bad or as vicious as it was back in March. So I want you to think today, come here, buddy. Come here. This guy, he's a camera hound. He was on before. My buddy Greg in the UP likes Buddy, so I don't want you to, that's the Budrow. He's a good boy. He's got his issues, but he's a good boy. All right, go do something. So, sorry about that. Hey, we're no longer in a state of emergency. So, think about that, okay, as we move forward here. For all of you who think the governor is doing the right thing, we still have our businesses so restricted. Let me see here. We've got, I wrote them down here. Ice rinks are now saying, hey, let us open. But bowling alleys, pools, gyms, and fitness centers, especially in the southern part of the state, high school football. What happened to that? The list goes on, and we need to get back to work. We need to get our economy rolling again. We need people off the unemployment rolls. We don't need a $400 or a $600 or a $300 add-on if we have our employment back. Remember when all this started? We had the lowest unemployment in the nation's history. But in 3 weeks, we went to Depression-era unemployment. It's time. We're still at like 12 or 16% unemployment in the state of Michigan. That's a lot of businesses. And I know there's businesses up here who are craving to get people to work, but they're not, either because they're scared or they don't want to go back to work. So we need to start peddling and preaching hope and that things are getting better. Death rates are down. Hospitalizations are down. We are managing the COVID now, all right? In theory, we could go back into a state of emergency if everything went to heck in a handbasket, right? But until that happens, let's get the heck out of this state of emergency, Madam Governor. This is just a way for you to continue to add to executive orders. And that's not right. I trust the people of Michigan. We've got 90+% compliance on everything. Are we going to get 100% compliance? No. But we've got 90+. That is unbelievable. You know, just to give you an idea, when I say 90% compliance, and, well, what about that person not wearing the mask? Well, do you realize that when we get to unemployment rates of like 4 and 5%, they consider that virtual employment, because there will always be a group of people that aren't working or whatever. So, it's like in a poll, they'll say a plus or minus of 3.7% or whatever it is, right? Because nothing is 100%. So if you think you're going to get 100% compliance or 110% compliance with any order like this, you are living in a fantasy land. So if we're at 90+% compliance and numbers are going down, we ain't in a state of emergency. So, Madam Governor, I know you don't listen, and I always get, you really think the governor's listening? No, I don't, but I like to pretend. Madam Governor, if you're listening, please stop the state of emergency. Let people get back to work. Let businesses open. Let us get back at this. Thought for the day? It's Wednesday. Talk to you again on Friday. Take care.